Welcome to StonerCast, your official deep dive into Columbus Clinkstones baseball. As the AA affiliate of the Atlanta Braves, the Clinkstones are building the future of baseball in the A, and we're here to bring you closer to it all. Get the inside look at what makes this team and this community so special. This is StonerCast. Here's your hosts, Ricky and Dave.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to StonerCast. We are so thrilled you've joined us for what's going to be a pretty epic episode. Before we go any further, you know the drill. Look down there. Like, subscribe, share. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tell an enemy to tell an enemy. StonerCast is here. We are talking Clinkstones baseball, taking you behind the scenes each and every week as we lead up into the 2026 season, at which time we will start season 2, and we've got some pretty epic surprises and things planned. So I am your host, Ricky Rogers. I am joined by, as always, my co-host, the nicest man in Pell City, Alabama, the one and only Mr. Dave Norris. Hey, Dave.
Hey, what's up, Ricky? How's everybody doing today? Enjoying some football and looking forward to this interview.
Dude, we've got a good one today. Pretty epic interview.
Oh yeah.
You know, we've got some of these things scheduled out, and I was just talking to you before we came on air about our scheduling and how we can get this one into Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube a little quicker than what I'm thinking it's going to shape up to be, because it's just that epic of an interview. So
it is.
I played golf this morning. I'm good to go, ready for a great interview, and I think our listeners are really going to love this episode. So, first of all, though, Dave, how many Christmas tree cakes have you had today?
Just one today.
Just
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
How many have you had?
I've had none. I'm on a diet. Got to watch the girlish figure.
Oh yeah.
So, well, without further ado, I think we're going to go ahead and bring our guest on stage, get this interview started. Guys, we are so excited to bring this one to you, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. So, please welcome to the stage the number 2 ranked Braves prospect, the minor league pitcher of the year in the Braves organization, the JR Ritchie. Welcome to StonerCast, JR.
Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh man, we could probably interview you for like 3 hours straight, but we're not going to do that to you.
I love shooting it. It's awesome.
Awesome. Well, catch us up. Tell us a little bit about what you've done in the off season so far.
Yeah, just starting to get back into throwing. Been working out the whole time pretty much. Down in Portland is where I do most of my off season training. Like this morning, just fired up the Blackstone, made some pancakes, watched football. I'm a big fan of West Coast football because it starts at 10 a.m. and not at 1. And it's really nice just to be able to roll out of bed and just turn on some football, and it's right there. So, and then the night games are at 5:30. They end at like 8:30 instead of ending at 11:30 or so.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah. No, off season been treating me well. Spent a lot of time down in Arizona. Tried to get in the sun for a little bit before I came back in the Northwest. It's a little cold here. So yeah, just kicking things off. It's good.
Awesome. Oh, a little rainy there as well.
Oh yeah, it's always raining. Just a constant cloud cover and rain.
Well, JR, you grew up on Bainbridge Island, Washington, which is pretty close to Seattle. How did baseball start for you there in the Pacific Northwest? And I would imagine you probably grew up a Mariners fan. What do you remember about the Braves organization in your early years?
Yeah, actually, the first ever team I was on, my T-ball team, I was on the Braves. So I got a couple of good pictures of that. Me wearing a bunch of whole Braves uniform when I was like 5. But for baseball, for me, I was good, but I never really loved it. And then I got put on a travel team when I was younger, and I was probably the worst player on the team. Didn't play. I maybe play an inning or 2. I hit last in the order because that's when they hit everybody in the order, and I don't know. It kind of pissed me off a little bit. So, I talked to my dad. I was like, hey, I want to play more, and he's like, all right, well, let's get to work. And so, I started, got a batting cage that across the street that I go to all the time. I hit in there, take ground balls with my dad. And I think that's kind of where the love started, because, I just kind of fell in love with the work of it. And, I guess just trying to get better all the time. And then, from there on, it just I feel like it kind of took off for me. Um, I was threw hard growing up, but everything else was kind of a learning process, learning how to pitch, when to use my pitches, how to be a pitcher, essentially.
No,
All
I
right.
got you.
What did you think
JR,
about the Braves growing up? Did you know
What's
much
that?
about them? What did you think about the Braves growing up? Do you know much about them?
Well, growing up, they had Chipper, and I knew about they had some great pitchers back in the '90s with Maddox, Smoltz, and Glavine, and yeah, when I was in high school, old Braves hitting coordinator Mike Brumley, his son was one of my high school coaches, Logan. So
Okay.
my senior year
oh
of high
wow,
school, we watched the Braves quite a bit. So yeah, every night we'd come back from baseball practice, turn the Braves game on. And little did I know that 6 months from then I'd be a part of the Braves. But yeah, no, I obviously it's on the other side of the country, so I didn't watch a whole lot of Braves baseball growing up. But when I got into high school, it became more. I guess it was on more in my house. So yeah,
Awesome.
JR, you have some incredible numbers from high school, particularly your junior year where you went 7-0 with a insane 0.38 ERA because you only gave up 2 earned runs the entire season. What were your favorite pitches to throw back then, and why do you feel you were so dominant?
yeah. I only threw 3 pitches back then. I was just fastball, slider, changeup. Um, Really, I just used my fastball a lot. I feel like I commanded the zone really well with that. Credit to my pitching coach and head coach in high school, Jeff Brown. He did a really good job of calling games and whatnot, mixing things up. And really for me, like if I started facing a better hitter, that was when I would throw out the slider and changeup. But most of the time I was just trying to get ahead with my fastball and just try and essentially make guys hit that before I started throwing anything else.
Very cool.
So the MLB draft, everybody knows it is a long, crazy, few days. Um, I forget what the actual total number of picks there are, but you were drafted in 2022 by the Braves with 35th overall pick. So first day, um, and you were picked by an organization that has developed some pretty elite pitching talent. You alluded to that just a moment ago. Take us back to that day for a second. Where were you when you got the call? Who you were with, and kind of what ran through your mind when you were officially a part of the Braves organization, and on top of that, a top 40 overall draft pick, which is incredibly hard to do in baseball.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Braves were probably my number one team going into it. I had told them that going into the draft. Like you said, they've done an amazing job developing pitchers. They do a really good job of giving guys opportunities when they're young, and that's something that really drew my interest. I got the call. I was actually at the draft in LA,
Okay.
so that was pretty cool to be able to be there. And I think there was like
That's
30
cool.
seconds left on the Braves pick. My agent told me, he's like, "Hey, you'll know." A couple picks ahead of time typically. And, I still hadn't heard anything. There was like 30 seconds left on the Braves pick. I got a call from my agent. He's like, "Hey, they're going to take you here." But yeah, no, I was with my family, mom, dad, brother, girlfriend. Um, my grandmother was sitting there, and then we had some family friends sitting behind us in the family section, I guess, but just behind the couches and everything. So yeah, it was an unbelievable thing. I got to go up and shake Fred McGriff's hand after he called my name. Got to do an interview. That was probably the most nerve-wracking interview I've ever done because I was on cloud nine and could barely hear what they were asking me. So yeah, that was just an unbelievable experience. I got to meet a lot of really cool people. Stayed at the same hotel as all the all-stars, so I got to see a bunch of them around. But yeah, no, I just had a great time with that. And like I said, like being able to be picked by your number one team and the team that you want to go to is just I couldn't ask for much more.
JR, you were originally committed to UCLA before you were drafted. What went into your decision to forego college and go pro? Was it just that you went so early, or?
Yeah, I think it kind of depended on the team that drafted me.
Mhm.
Um, I think that there were a handful of, organizations or teams that, in my head, I wanted to go to college instead of go there. I loved UCLA. I loved Coach Savage. He does a great job developing pitchers, and they're always in the hunt every year. Always
Mhm.
have good teams. So, that was a big draw for me. And then honestly, the stability of UCLA. I knew Coach Savage was going to be there forever, and I really liked that. But like I said, like I think, a team that develops pitchers like the Braves, like it's for me, it's a no brainer to sign and go play pro ball with them.
Mhm.
Coach Savage even said it. He's like, I don't blame you. That's one of the few teams that he sees as like kind of one of those like, hey, yeah, you should probably go to pro ball. So for me, it wasn't a tough decision. I didn't get chewed out by a coach over a phone call. Coach Savage was very respectful about it, and he was actually at the draft as the Pac-12 analyst. So he saw my name get called, and I got to see him the day before. But yeah, no, he was great about it, and like I said, like I kind of got his blessing to be able to sign.
Awesome. That's pretty cool.
So let's skip ahead now to pro ball debut. Um, every player seems to have a welcome to pro ball moment. That instant when it hits you like, crap, this is way different than high school. For you, coming out of a place like Bainbridge Island, what was that moment? Maybe a hitter that, had already seen big league time, or, just a moment where you realized just how fast the pro game moves? Or was it just walking into a clubhouse full of players from like not just over the United States, but all over the world?
Yeah, for me, I got kind of two moments to stick out in the first probably 3 weeks that I was down at our complex down in Florida. First one was the first day. Like I'm a decent sized dude. Like I'm 6'2". I was one of the shorter guys in our draft class, especially among the pitchers. So that was kind of a waking up moment because I was one of the taller dudes at our high school, and I thought I was a pretty big guy. But then I kind of got there. I was like, "Ooh, I got I got a ways to go here." And then secondly, my first outing was against the FCL Tampa Bay Rays team, and I'm pretty sure it went Chandler Simpson, Brock Jones, Dominic Keegan, Jalen Battles, and then Xavier Isaac was that was like their first five hitters.
Wow.
So Chandler Simpson got an infield single on me on the first hitter I faced, and stole second right away. And I like to think that I can hold runners pretty well, and he's tried stealing third on me a couple times, and that was when I knew the game kind of sped up a little bit. And granted, that's probably one of the fastest dudes in baseball.
Mhm.
But that was kind of an eye-opening experience for me. Is having to worry about a runner like that while facing a guy who's a collegiate All-American like a month ago, another like first round high school pick, like just all these guys were just really really good baseball players, and I think that was a good experience for me, kind of get thrown into it like that. Because, like I'd rather get thrown into the fire than, kind of have a cakewalk into it and like kind of, have everything go my way and whatnot. I feel like that's where you learn the most. And like for me, that's where I feel like I learned the most about, hey, I got to be quicker to the plate. Got to be able to hold runners a little bit better, and, still be able to make pitches while paying attention to runners.
Um, JR, going from high school to pro ball, it's kind of a heck of a transition, but you put up some impressive numbers at Augusta after your short stint with the FCL Braves in 2022. 14 innings, 14 Ks, and a 1.83 ERA. What was the transition like for you, and how do you feel you're able to carry the high school dominance straight into pro ball?
Yeah, it was a little bit different for me. High school, I struck a lot of guys out. So I kind of saw myself as a strikeout pitcher. I know, when I got into pro ball, I went my first outing, I went 4 innings, had one strikeout. And that was a little bit of a surprise to me. But, that's kind of when I figured out like, hey, it's pro ball, everyone's pretty good here. You're not gonna,
Mhm.
just be able to strike everyone out. Like, for me, like it was just about making good out pitches. And just trying to execute my stuff early on accounts. And I think I still have the same mentality even this past year and going into next year, just trying to force contact, force swings, make guys get themselves out just by making good quality pitches. I feel like the more I try and chase strikeouts, the less success I have just because I'm trying to do too much. But when I just play my game and try and force early swings, I feel like I have the best results.
In 2023, you started out really strong with 25 Ks and 13 innings. Then you had your UCL injury. leading to your Tommy John surgery and a long recovery that obviously turned out very well. What advice would you give a younger pitcher who has the same who has the surgery, and what advice would you give a younger pitcher who has the surgery to stay locked in as they recover?
You know, it seems like a long process, and you feel like you have a lot of time, but it really goes by quick. My advice is just attack each day as its own. You have so many opportunities each day to get better, and for me, like a big thing that I worked on was, what are my weaknesses? What am I struggling at? And for me, like a lot of it was, my mobility wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I wanted to dial in my routine a little bit better. So for me, like every single day when I went in, I tried to have a process and have some routines set in place where I really stuck to the work and just tried to put my nose down and really get to work. I think that's the biggest thing. I'm a big
Mhm,
believer in, the harder the work or the harder you work, the more karma you kind of have.
mhm.
So I think that's just the biggest thing for me is um, just being able to focus in and um, really be able to get to work every day and try not to let the days get away from you. Because you blink and all of a sudden you're 2 months out, and you blink again, you're 6 months out, you're throwing again, and you haven't really done anything to get better. Um, so that was probably the biggest thing for me.
Tommy John, that's a nightmare topic for a pitcher. I imagine that kind of comeback is not just about rehab. It's about people that surround you as well during rehab. During that stretch, who did you lean on most for support? And were there guys in the Brave system or maybe other pitchers who had been through it that you reached out to and talked to about that whole process?
Oh yeah, no, I had an unbelievable rehab group. We joke about it all the time. That's probably the best rehab group ever. But no, it was great. The guys, we had a really good, camaraderie and got along, did a lot of group outings, hung out with each other all the time, even outside of rehab. And um, like a guy that I, was fortunate enough to be kind of lined up with was Ian Anderson. So, being able to pick his brain about, what's it like pitching the World Series, kind of seeing how he goes about his day, what it takes to be a big league pitcher and, a guy who's won, playoff games, World Series games. You can't ask for more. So, just trying to be a sponge around those guys and, take in as much as you can, kind of just notice the little things they do. Because if you look at the big picture, everyone's pretty good, but if the little things is really what stands out and can really separate a guy. So um, really just trying to talk to him, lean on him, and then we had a lot of guys in our bridge system, probably 7 or 8 guys who were a little bit ahead of me. So just talking to them about how they feel, what they're going through, and like would they do anything different than what they did. So that way, when I got to that point, I kind of knew kind of roughly how to do it, kind of how to go about my business.
JR, you were chosen to start in this year's Futures Game, which I'm sure was a huge honor for you. Um, Knowing you only had one inning to show what you had, you looked like you were on a mission to leave that game promoted to AAA. Like you weren't coming back to Columbus, you were staying in Atlanta. And you pretty much were. I have to ask, was that a big goal as you stepped foot on the mound for that day?
I didn't really think about it too much. In my head, I was going to be in Columbus the rest of the year. Um, it's something that's entirely out of my control. All I can do is just put a good product on the field, and if they want to move me up, feel free. But if they didn't want to, I was just going to be where my feet are.
Mhm.
I'd struggled in the past with feeling kind of um, just thinking about, oh, well, what if I get here? Well, if I, pitch well enough in 3 straight games, maybe I could get called up. Um, and the reality is, you can't control any of that. So, for me, it was just being where my feet are every day, and just trying to attack the work that I had every day. And I was fortunate enough, like you said, to be able to start that futures game, and I had an unbelievable time being able to do that. I loved it. I loved every second of it. Got to be around a lot of great players and um, a lot of great coaches. And I was hoping Chipper would send me out for a second inning. Kind of asked him like, "Hey, you gonna, am I good for another?" And he's like, "You're done, dude. Come on." And I was like, "All right, fine." But but yeah, no, I felt good that day, and I feel like I threw the ball well. Got to talk to Tim Hudson a little bit, and ask him a little bit of just a couple questions here and there, and he was great, answered all of them, and he was a great dude, and yeah, I was just really fortunate enough to be in that situation.
I mean, I can't
And what
remember
it-
who the batter was, but he's one of the top prospects. Of course, he was in the Futures Game, but man, you hit him with a fastball that kind of rose up in the inside part of the strike zone and hit 97 miles an hour, and I was like, he's trying to stay in Atlanta.
what a stage that
Yeah,
was. I mean, the Futures Game is it's an incredible opportunity for fans to see exactly what the name states, the future of their favorite teams. You're standing on the mound at Truist Park. You're in front of 20,000 plus fans. I have a buddy that was there, and he said he thought it was like 20 to 30,000. Um, and the best part was you were wearing that beautiful peach C on your hat, um, playing under a coaching staff that included, I mean, absolute legends: Chipper, Hudson, Andrew Jones. What was going through your mind as you ran out onto the field that day? And were there any moments where you just stopped and kind of took it all in, the crowd, the atmosphere, the proverbial stage you were actually standing on?
yeah, I think most of my routine I tried to stay locked in, especially throughout my bullpen and everything. Just tried to keep everything the same. Um, But when I ran out on the mound for the first time, um, I kind of had what I call like an Adley Rutschman moment, where you kind of get out there and kind of look around a little bit, and just kind of soak in the moment. So I was able to do that, which was pretty cool. Be able to look around. Glad they didn't have a pitch clock on for that one, or else I probably would have been a little late. But I got to kind of embrace the moment, and kind of put my head down and get back to it. But yeah, no, it was unbelievable. I mean, I can't even describe, how amazing that was, and it felt like a dream come true to be able to pitch in a big league ballpark, a bunch of people there, and with great players, and you're coming off, you're high fiving Chipper Jones and Andrew Jones, all these guys who are just Braves legends, like you say. It's just it was just awesome. I loved every second of it.
Well, hopefully you get to stand on that mound in front of even bigger crowds on bigger stages in the time, the years to come. I know that you're a top prospect already, which that list is created and curated by people that are way smarter than I am. So there's been something seen in you that you could be part of that 5-man rotation one day on that exact field. So in Truist Park, just like, it's a pretty amazing place, pretty special. Some of the stuff that's happened there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's the goal, is to be able to get there and then stay there for a long time. Hopefully I'm playing in Atlanta for a long time.
I hope so too, man. You're a great, great pitcher and real fun to watch. But last month, the Braves named you minor league player of the year. After everything you've been through with the surgery and the injury and all that, how special was that for you?
It's unbelievable. It's a culmination of a lot of hard work, and a lot of ups and downs. And I had my fair share of ups and downs this year, and then in the past 2 years as well. Um, I'm just really fortunate enough to be in this situation. Be surrounded by a lot of great coaches, a lot of great players. Who've had my back for a long time. Um, it's a really good healthy friendship and competitiveness that we have with other pitchers in the organization, and where we're all competing every day, and it's a really nice environment. But at the same time, we're all really good friends off the field, and I'm just fortunate enough to be surrounded by a lot of great people, and who have helped put me in this situation.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned some of the other guys. Give us some thoughts on the absolute war chest the Braves have accumulated when it comes to young pitching. You've played with several guys that we may actually get the opportunity to see in Synovus Park next season. What can we expect, guys, from like Cam Caminiti, Garrett Bowman, Owen Murphy, Luke Sennard? And are there any other names in the Brave system that you personally feel may be ready to wear that peach on peach uniform and take the mound at Synovus Park?
Yeah, I think Murph's a dog. I hope he gets the opportunity to start the year in Columbus next year. He's just the ultimate competitor. He's probably the closest thing you can get to Max Scherzer, with his pregame routine, and he's just. It's really fun to watch him go about his business on start days, and how he approaches the game, and how serious he is, and his preparation for everything. So I love being able to watch Murph throw, and then Cam, I love Cam. I was thrown down in Arizona with him, working out at the same place as him. So I got to know Cam pretty well in the last year. He's a great guy. He's just got so much talent. He's unbelievable. I hope like I said, I hope he gets the opportunity to go there next year, and I hope you guys get to watch him, because he's really special to watch. There's a lot coming at you. 97 from the left side, it's tough to hit sometimes. So he's a great kid, and same thing. He's just a big competitor, and same thing with Garrett. He's just tall, coming downhill at you. I love being around Garrett. He's a funny guy. Just a lot of fun to be around. He's never in a bad mood. Just a lot of great guys in this organization. Everyone's a competitor. Everyone's got really good stuff, and love to be around everyone.
I mentioned that peach on peach uniform. Give us your thoughts. What'd you think of that uniform combo?
I wore that uniform combo more than anyone, I swear. It was like for a while I was throwing on every Friday, and I was just, wearing that peach uniform every time. But no, I loved it. I think it was really good. It kind of breaks up the monotony. I feel like every team has their whites and grays, and that's kind of it. So, I was glad that we were able to wear some peach uniforms, and I'm just happy that we didn't have all black, because it got real hot down there in June.
Yeah.
So,
Gosh.
I loved it. It was great. My parents got a good laugh out of it too. My dad's like, "You're really wearing you're really wearing a whole peach uniform right now." I was like, "I don't know what to tell you, man." I loved it though. It was great, and it was an awesome uniform.
What team was it? You brought up the black uniform. What team was it that had a black jersey? And I was like, man, I bet they hate those things because it's hot.
Rome has black
Yeah.
jersey.
Well, we had one in Columbus, but we never chose to wear it if we had the opportunity, just because it got so hot.
Yeah,
And then
no,
in
not the
Rome,
Columbus. Somebody else had one too. I think it was Pensacola. That's who it was, I believe. And I think I was thinking, man, being in Florida, can you imagine wearing that?
Yeah, they have Pensacola does have a black on black, very Marlins-esque with the hot pink and
Right,
the blue combo.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man, you
That's
lose
hot.
10 pounds in a game wearing that.
Does
I
Rome
know. I
have
don't think I
black?
could do that. They don't have black pants. They just have black top,
Okay.
though.
Okay.
Yeah. But Rome's on
What?
turf, so it gets real hot on that turf.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. I like Columbus's black jersey. That looks good. JR, let's pretend that I'm playing for the Rome Emperors and I was a teammate of yours there, and I'm about to get called up to AA Columbus. And I call you for some insight what I can expect in Columbus, from the clubhouse to the coaching staff, the ballpark, and places to eat. Well, what would you tell me?
Well, I tell you that Piva's the best clubhouse manager in all of baseball. So you can expect us to be treated like royalty down there. So I love being around Piva. He's a great guy. Just a lot of fun to be around, and he really takes care of all of his players. And like I said, I really believe he's the best clubhouse manager in all baseball. He's the man. The staff in the clubhouse that Gabby runs. I love playing for Gabby. It's my third year, playing for him, and he's just a real treat to be around. I love him. He loves his Miami football too. So, don't be surprised if there's some football playing over the intercom in the fall and everything. And but yeah, no, being around him, Steeder, Kay, all those guys. I love being around all of them. They're all great. And then make sure you change your clock over when you're going from Alabama to Georgia, because sometimes I know some guys haven't done that, and get caught being an hour late to practice just because the time change.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Well, you had a 8-game stretch in Columbus. Those starts at Synovus Park. I know the Clingstones fan base got a reputation pretty early on as being very electric, being loud, boisterous. Every time you took the mound there, the fans seemed to really embrace you from day one. Everybody was excited that a guy that's a top prospect is actually playing here in Columbus. That's what everybody was looking forward to, was seeing the future Braves. And I think you being brought up and added to the roster, people started saying, okay, this is what AA is all about. Looking back on your time pitching at Synovus Park in front of the Clingstones fans, what did that experience mean to you personally? And were there any moments, maybe walking off the field after a big win or hearing the crowd behind you, that really stuck with you and made you appreciate the fan base here in Columbus?
Yeah, I love the fans in Columbus. It'd be a Wednesday night game, and stands are packed basically. 20 minutes before first pitch. I had a great time being able to play there. It's not every day that you get to play or pitch in front of a big crowd like that, especially in the minor leagues. You go some places where there's like maybe 500 people in the stands. I saw something about Trey Savage. He started the season pitching against 364 people, I think it was, in Dunedin. So you always luck out when you get to pitch in front of a full stadium and everything. And one moment that I look back to was when Quintero hit that walk off or that go ahead grand slam in the bottom of the eighth, and that place was rocking. That was one of the cooler I guess experiences that I've had in the minor leagues. Being able to be a part of that and watch that and celebrate with all the guys. That was just a great win, and just a lot of fun to be around. And I definitely tried not to take it for granted. Being around that big stadium, big crowd, and like even Synovus, being like a really old historic stadium, where tons of baseball players back in the 1900s have played in. It was just incredible.
Yeah, Babe has played there. Hank Aaron, Ty Cobb. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
you can roll down a list of names that baseball
Yeah.
fans are like, really?
Yeah, people are like, wow.
Who, Dave, was it Landon that didn't really, he'd not seen like the concourse area where they've got all the names listed out
Yeah,
there, those
I
players?
believe it was Lane. He said he never really went down there. He said he saw a couple of the names, and I can't remember if he named like any older people. I think they were more like Frank Thomas,
Yeah.
type names. And I said, well, Babe Ruth played there, and he was like, wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. From everything I've heard, they did a great job renovating the stadium, getting it ready for this past year, and but still were able to hold on to the historic aspect of it.
That's exactly what
Kind of
they
add
did.
some more modern features to it without taking away the historic part.
Man, that ballpark has got a ton of charm. And JR, I mean, that's it for our main interview. You gave us an incredible interview. I didn't expect much less, and I am personally so excited to watch you as you progress through the rest of your career. But now it's time for fan submitted questions, and we had some good ones submitted for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, we did. With Stonercast being a fan-driven podcast, we asked for fan submitted questions for our guests. There was definitely no shortage of questions submitted for you. Remember, fans, you can submit questions for Stonercast guests via email at thestonercastshow@gmail.com in the comments of our guest announcements on our social media pages, or by messaging Ricky and I on Facebook. And JR, our first questions, these were submitted from the Facebook group from Dan Ursery. Did you anticipate how much success you were going to have this year?
I felt like I had a really good off season, and I felt really confident going into the year. I couldn't have predicted, how much success, just because the game of baseball is so weird sometimes. You can do everything right and still have a tough year, but you can do everything wrong and have a really good year. So I was just fortunate enough to be put in some good situations, and had a couple strikes called my way, and I feel like I put myself in a good position going into the year to set up something like this, but I couldn't have imagined it. It was great.
Very good. Josh Weems asked, the futures game is a big deal for young players. What are your thoughts on seeing Tong and Savage having the success they've had after their experience in the futures game? And does their success add a little spark to your drive, make it into a rotation?
Yeah, one of the things that they had talked about and DeRosa had talked about a little bit, going before the game was, a lot, some of these guys are going to be pitching in the big leagues in the next few weeks, playing in the big leagues in the next few weeks, and it really just shows how you're on the doorstep. It's right there for you, and to see a guy like Tong and Savage have great success in the big leagues, it's really cool to watch because Jonah's a really nice guy. I got to talk to him a lot during the futures game, and I loved being able to be around him and talk pitching with him. Seeing his success, and he deserves all of it. And Trey threw great, and obviously, his World Series appearances were amazing. I love being able to watch him throw in the postseason because I feel like that could be me next year. That's stuff that I really like to watch, and I wish both those guys nothing but good luck going forward.
Our next question comes from Chuck Williams. And you answered the first part of his question. Did you get to spend any time with Savage? And were you surprised by what he did in Game 5 of the World Series?
I can't say I was. He's been a dog all along. I don't know him too well, but from everything that I've seen with him, he has really good preparation, really good routine, and he's the type of guy who just embraces those moments. He's talked about it, and being able to see all this publicity on him is really cool because you feel like you kind of get to know the guy a little bit better. So being able to watch him pitch in the World Series and in the playoffs has been unbelievable.
From 205 Bleacher Creature, Corey Wilkins submitted via email. How hard was it to get past the nerves of a major league start like the futures game, and how has it helped to prepare you for an MLB appearance?
Yeah, I definitely had some nerves going into it. But there's a story I kind of go back to. I was 8 years old. I won a raffle basically to throw out the first pitch at Angel Stadium on my birthday when the Angels were playing the Mariners. And this is 2010 or 2011. And my dad asked me, he's like, "Are you nervous?" And I kind of looked at him. I was like, "I was born for this." I try and keep that same kind of mentality going into starts like that, where you get to pitch in a big league stadium, and just feel the sense of belonging. Not really trying to do too much. You're kind of in that position for a reason, and just being able to trust your stuff. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is trust your stuff, and not try and do too much. Try and make pitches better than they are. Try and make stuff move more than it should. Just got to keep doing what got you there.
All right. Good. So, real quick, I'm going way off script here. I've got to put this up since we were talking about Savage. Does he not look like a straight up boss walking off that mound after striking out freaking Ohtani? Hey, he has Ohtani like struggling to stay in his cleats.
He was walking off. Ohtani swung.
I'm pretty sure Drake put this on his story, like the rapper. Pretty sure he posted this picture on a story. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's everything you dream of as a pitcher. You're striking out the best player in baseball. The year Ohtani had, it was just unbelievable. It's really fun to watch him play, but that's just best on best, and that's kind of everything you want, to see in the postseason, especially is, see a team's best guy go against the best hitter on the other team. It's really fun to watch. And I was really lucky to be able to watch that.
I actually didn't watch that game that night. The next morning I get up ready for work. I'm like wiping sleep out of my eyes, and a Facebook page called Baseballer that I follow they posted that and they were like hanging in the Louvre. Yeah, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's a false reaction from him. Like he expected that completely. I don't know how you
Yeah.
could stare Ohtani down in the batter's box expecting that, but he did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of it, there's this great Bryson DeChambeau quote that he talks about. And I think he had like a 3-foot putt to win a major. And he was really nervous going into it. And, in the back of his mind he's like, don't miss this easy putt. Um, but, kind of what he leaned on was he's like, I've made this putt 10,000 times in practice. He's like, this is the same exact putt. There's nothing different. Nothing else matters outside of the green. I've made this 10,000 times. And I think it's the same thing for pitching. You face a guy like Otani, you might feel like you have to do more, but at the end of the day, he's probably thrown that splitter in that spot 10,000 times.
Mhm.
There's no need to do anything more. It's just, try and execute that pitch. And, he did a great job of doing that all series. And, it looked like he was comfortable there, which is really special. And, that's, really difficult to do.
All right, JR, we are moving into our lightning round questions. These are just kind of off the cuff answers. Fun stuff. We don't have anything in here that's gonna make you upset, I don't think. So first one, which MLB hitter would you most love to strike out? It can be current, retired.
I feel like the answer you have to say is Otani for current, just because of how great he played this season and this postseason. He's just an unbelievable player. Maybe back in the day, I idolized Griffey growing up. So if I got to go back in time and face Griffey, I feel like that'd be a really fun at bat. I feel like I'd match up. I like to think I'd match up decent with him because I have a pretty good changeup. But other than that, that'd be really fun to be able to pitch against a guy I idolized. And I guess you could say the same thing about Jeter. I loved watching Jeter growing up, and being able to face him, that'd be pretty cool.
All right. Favorite ballpark not named Truist that you've pitched in so far?
Oh, well, I've pitched in T-Mobile, and that was really cool. Just being from Seattle, they had a really nice mound, and it feels steep, which is nice. I love steep mounds. I feel like I'm on top of the hitter a little bit more. And another one that I got to pitch in twice, luckily, was Petco. I threw well in Petco twice, and that was a really cool ballpark to be able to pitch in.
Awesome. What is one Southern thing you've grown to love since signing with the Braves?
Probably the people. That's kind of a cliche answer, I feel like, but honestly, like I go back up, to the Northwest, and I kind of miss the people in the South. Everyone's really nice. Everyone's very polite. I love to be around the people, and they do a really good job of taking care of me while I'm down there for 7 months or so.
And just so our listeners know, he didn't have a copy of these questions beforehand. That's his genuine response. And that says a lot about you, JR. It says a lot about
Exactly
people in the South that's one thing you've loved. I mean, you could have named Waffle House. You could have, you could have named Sweet Tea.
I have been a big sweet tea fan growing up, so I love my sweet tea, but the genuine answer is the people. I love the people in the South.
All right. If you could steal one pitch from a current Braves pitcher, whose would it be and what pitch?
I feel like if I don't say Strider's fastball, I'd be wrong. I think Strider's
fastball pre-injury.
Yeah, but you'd still just Strider's fastball is unbelievable.
It's still nasty.
He does a really good job. Has a really good shape to it. I feel like just because the velo was down a little bit this year, he had to throw a slider a little bit more. But I don't think that takes away from how dominant his fastball is. I think it still will be. That first year back from TJ is really tough, and I think he's going to be really, really good and back to his dominant self this coming year.
Mm-hmm.
He'll get a full off season to kind of recover and get back to it. Maybe tweak a couple of things, but he's when he's fully healthy and really rolling. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball, and I look forward to watching him this coming year. But yeah, if I could have his fastball, that'd be unbelievable.
All right. Scenario. Alex Anthopoulos calls you and he says, we've cleaned house. We've dropped every pitcher. You're our guy. Now pick 4 guys to come and pitch with you in your dream 5-man rotation.
In a dream, is this minor leaguers or big league guys?
You could pick minor leaguers. You could pick anybody that's on the staff now. Who would you love to be in a 5-man rotation with?
All right. I go Schwellenbach because I love Schwell. I'll take Murph. Just because I love Murph. I'm living with him again in spring training.
Yeah.
That's my guy. I got 2 more. I'll go Crochet and Garrett Cole.
Would be pretty
I
intense.
feel like you can't go wrong with either of those guys. We needed a lefty in there, so I threw Crochet in.
I'm a big fan of Philly too. So
Got to have a lefty. I'm a lefty. So.
Okay, we'll throw Dave in there too.
There you go.
Dave's the 6th man.
What's one Pacific Northwest thing you wish you could bring to Georgia?
I wish I could have fresh caught salmon in Georgia. That's like my automatic answer. Girlfriend's dad is a fisherman, so I brought some salmon down with me to Portland. And I love eating salmon, but that's probably one thing I wish I could have. I probably have to ship it and make sure it's still frozen but fresh caught salmon, like they have in Pike Place Park, would be ideal for me if I could have that in Georgia.
Awesome. I've read somewhere that they sell salmon at T-Mobile Park. Do they?
Yeah, they probably do. They probably do. Yeah,
imagine.
Pike Place is just down the street. And their salmon's unbelievable. It's really good. Atlantic salmon isn't the same as Alaskan caught salmon or salmon in the Northwest. I'm trying to go salmon fishing here in the next couple of weeks while I'm down here. There's supposed to be some good fishing around here. So
next, when you get back to Florida, find a seafood restaurant that has red snapper and taste the red snapper.
Really?
Yes.
All right. I'll try some red snapper then.
Red snappers.
I like it.
Fabulous. I believe it's Dodger Stadium. You can actually get a steak there.
Yeah, I saw that. $125 for
$125 for a steak dinner. And it
That's
didn't look that good, but it's a steak.
Yeah.
All right, last one, JR. And this one, it probably won't be tough for you. You seem to follow the Mariners pretty close. Best Mariner player that's not named King Griffey Jr.
I mean, I feel like the answer would have to be Edgar or Ichiro, one of the two.
I got half of that right, Dave. I said that when I told Dave that question. I was like, I said, who do you think he's going to say? He said Randy Johnson. And
I said Randy Johnson.
Ichiro.
Yeah, he said Ichiro. So
Randy's a really good answer. It's tough because the Mariners let him go and then he went on to. It's tough because Randy was really good with the Mariners, and then we let him go because apparently he's getting too old or whatever. And then he went on. He won 2 straight Cy Youngs after that.
Yeah,
pitching the World Series with the Diamondbacks. Yeah, it's like that's tough. It's tough to say him because he got better with the other team with the Diamondbacks, and I think Ichiro is probably the obvious answer, just because of how good he is, and I still feel like he's really involved with the organization still. He'll throw out the first pitch every once in a while, and he's still around the team at spring training and everything in full uniform. But Edgar was unbelievable back in the day. I feel like he can go overlooked quite a bit, and guy's just consistent. Hit 300 every year. Just really good and unbelievable hitter.
Yeah, I forgot all about Edgar Martinez, man. He was a great hitter, and I think you're right. He's very underappreciated. I think he was one of the best at that time.
Yeah, no, he was something special. He was, being able to look back on video of him online is fun because he was just a really, really good pure hitter.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, what was your batting average in high school? Were you a hitter?
I did. I hit. I hit 2-hole my first 2 years, and then my last 2 years I hit in the 3-hole.
A little
I think
pop in that.
I hit above 400 every year, I think. My junior year, I think I hit above 500. It was fun. We didn't play in the best league. We had I faced a couple guys throwing in like the 60s and 70s, so that was a couple of stat padding games, I guess. But
What do you
yeah,
think
no,
would happen if you stepped in the box with Owen Murphy on the mound?
I'd punch really quick. Murph's fastball is really good. Whenever the velo would get above like 92, I'd struggle to hit it. I wouldn't say I struggled, but it wasn't, like facing 80. So, we didn't see that a whole lot in Washington. There's not a whole lot of guys that throw above 90. So, occasionally you run into, other team has a guy who's throwing 90. He's like 88 to 90. That was always a tough game. But yeah, if I faced Murph, I'd punch real quick. Murph was, you want to talk about a good hitter? Murph was really good in high school.
Really?
He hammered the ball. Yeah, he was really good. I was on his USA PDP team, and he struck Elijah Green out on 3 fastballs, and then went up and was leading off the next inning and went deep. And I was like,
Wow.
"Who is this guy?" Like, he was super quiet. Didn't say a word in the dugout, and then just went up and did that in the span of an inning. I'm like, this guy's disgusting. But yeah, so Murph's a really good athlete.
JR, man, thank you for taking the time with us. This has been an incredible interview. I feel like I could probably never publish another episode of Stonercast after this one and end this thing happily. I mean, you've given a tremendous interview.
Oh, thanks for
we are
having
going
me
to
on.
we are going to continue publishing, but that's how good
Yeah.
this one was. I feel like it's going to be a one of the ones that we'll always remember once we do finish production of this thing one day.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you guys. I really appreciate you having me on, and I'm really happy to be part of it.
Awesome. Dave, got anything else?
No, man, I'm good. That was a great interview, JR. We really do appreciate the time you spent with us today, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, JR. Well, we appreciate you coming on Stonercast. And hey, guys, if you're listening to this, don't forget, like, subscribe, and share. Keeps these episodes rolling, and the more publicity and notoriety we get on these episodes, the higher we are in feeds, and the more likely players like JR are to come on the Stonercast with us. So thank you so much, JR. And hey, we'll see you. I prefer to come watch you at Truist Park next year, but if I have to come to Gwinnett to watch a game, I will. So
be great to have you.
I'm planning on hitting some Gwinnett games myself, but I would definitely love to see you in Truist Park next year.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, man. Thank you so much, JR. We appreciate you coming on Stonercast.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Dave, man, can you get any better than that one?
No, not at all, man. That was a great interview, and it was great for him to take time out of his day to join us and spend some time with us, answering some questions, give us a little insight about how he got from high school on up to where he is now. He moved up pretty quick.
Yeah, we didn't have him long in Columbus, and I feel like this episode will help Columbus fans kind of, realize that he remembers his time in Columbus. He remembered those peach on peach uniforms. He wore them quite a bit. So, this kind of establishes that connection. And man, we were extremely lucky to get a talent like his in Synovus Park this season. So
absolutely.
That's all I've got for today, man. We've another great interview. Again, you guys mash those buttons, the like button, the subscribe button, the share button. Tell your friends to tell a friend, tell your enemies to tell their enemies. Stonercast is here, and we're working really hard to bring you great Clingstones content through this off season and into the 2026 Clingstone season, which will kick off season 2 for us. So thank you guys for joining us. And hey, Dave, only one thing left to say. Go Stones.
Go Stones.
Thanks for tuning in to StonerCast, your inside look into Columbus Clingstones baseball. Please like, subscribe, and share to stay connected as we bring you closer to the Stones.